Okay, Jill. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
We are about to, first of all, my name is Deron, and
I'm Jill. That's the husband, I'm the wife.
that's the wife. This is my wife, and we've been doing several tapings today on just different subjects of the new ministry of health, where we say God is truth. And I would just like to jump right in because that last segment we did with Dr. Henry Lamont was very good, and it really brought some things out. And one of the things that, we realized with, this whole healthcare system and the stronghold that is on the healthcare system, that we end up being lost. And I was so taken aback when Dr. Henry Lamont explained to me how, we got the system, we have a healthcare system, but when it comes to the patient, once they leave, sometimes they're not being taken care of, and there's no follow-up or whatever the case may be. And it brought back a moment, and I'm just going to talk about that, and I just like to talk about caregiving. And before I do this, to ask you, what is your take on caregiving?
Well, I know that in caregiving there's all kinds of moments of stress. There's such thing as caregiver burnout. But from a personal standpoint, I understand caregiving from what can feel like helplessness and having to take care of a whole bunch of things. When you become a caregiver, the rest of your duties don't stop. You still take care of your home. If you have children, you still have to take care of your children. But I think in our case, while your most recent situation with healthcare had to do with lung cancer and brain cancer. But before then, maybe in 2007, was probably my first real experience with caregiving. You had an aneurysm. And the way that the trauma that brought into my life because of the way that happened.
Right.
You were exercising.
In my office.
In your office, and I'm in my office, and then your secretary comes to me in my office and said, "Jill, Deron needs you. He's dying." I said, "Did he say dying?"
And I just want to, so that you guys get a real picture of what happened. I'm exercising, and I drink a red energy drink, and I drank the energy drink because I'm taking this very powerful blood pressure medicine that makes my heartbeat and everything slow down, and so the only way I can exercise is to drink this energy drink. And so I drink this energy drink, and I get on this treadmill, and then I have this pain in my side, and this pain feels like I'm being stabbed with a knife, and I'm thinking I'm just going to work the cramp off, and I get off the treadmill and I'm on the floor. I have to crawl to the telephone, and I can barely see now. And I get to the telephone, and by this time I can only remember my assistant Cabby's number, and I just recently texted her a couple of days ago and said, "Hey, I really appreciate you answering that phone when I called."
Oh yeah, because I thought it was a joke.
Right.
I don't know what I should have thought about it, because nothing like that, saying anything like that should ever sound like a joke. But I really didn't take it seriously. And I really didn't take it seriously.
Right, because what I did was I crawled and I tried to dial the number and I didn't get it right. And I heard, "Deron, you got one more shot to make this happen." Because by this time I'm in a cold sweat, my hands are cold, everything is happening. And I dialed it. And my prayer was, "Please let her pick up the phone." And sure enough, she picked up, and I just said, "Cabby, I'm dying. Call the ambulance. I'm dying." And she said, I said, "Cabby, I'm serious." And maybe it was a joke too, because I was very joking.
You were playful.
And very playful.
All the time.
Well, let's fast forward. The bottom line was, you guys came over and they took me to the hospital, and the rest, guys, was history in terms of, you'll hear it. I don't want to get into that whole story, but they had to medevac me to another hospital and do all kinds of things. No,
they couldn't. You know, I'll just say this because there's so many other things to talk about, but there were so many traumatic parts to this. You didn't get medevac because it was raining, and they said they couldn't medevac you.
Right.
They couldn't give you an ambulance because now, since they couldn't medevac you, all the ambulances were booked, and then you were 45 minutes away from the hospital that had the capacity to actually take care of what they ended up discovering. And but I wrote a book after that entitled Good Grief. And I started it off with, and this book is about losing yourself and what happens during times of grief, what happens during times of depression. But I wrote it because at that point, once you were better, I realized how much I lost myself, and I said it this way: I had to learn to breathe normally again. Because as a caretaker during that time, you couldn't walk. There were all kinds of side effects from the condition. They said you had a heart attack on the table. They said that your kidneys were going to fail. So I'm taking all this in the hospital while I was supposed to teach a class that night, and everything just went somewhere. But the caretaker part was difficult because every sound. It was no longer me being in my own house, free to move around and do what I like to do. Because at this point, certain sounds meant, a thump meant you could have fallen on the floor. You couldn't walk. We had to get a special bed at the particular time. And so I realized that I had stopped breathing normally. And so that was that. That was 2007. Fast forward to 2016, 17, you go through this situation with cancer. And now I am having to take care of you. And I want to do it. And I'm having to be mindful of all kinds of things because, you having a situation with cancer also was stressful for you. And so I had to be careful with the way that I addressed you. I had to be careful to say things just right. I had to do a lot of encouraging. Well, at this point, I'm living my life trying to help you fight to live. And I remember times that I would reassure you and say, I want you to know, I don't care how bad it gets, I'm not going anywhere. Because somewhere along the line, you began to feel like it was a burden.
Hey, listen, guys. Let's just really talk.
Okay.
I had an aneurysm in I didn't even know this existed, iliac artery that is in the left side of my groin. And once that happened, I bled out. I was bleeding out and didn't know it. And it got to a point where my testicles swelled up to about this big. And because all the blood that I bled out went there. I was very nervous about that. And I kept asking the doctor what was happening. And my wife, you had to help me go to the bathroom, all kinds of things. Right. I was one great thing, an orderly gave me the best advice ever. He told me, I said, how do I get around? He says, let me tell you, man, you take a towel and you tie them things up and you got to hold it. So he had
to make a sling.
A sling for my testicles. I didn't know this was possible. So I was traumatized too. And so then because my wife kept having to take care of me, when you've been the point person and you've been dependent, you know, the caregiving thing is not just, Jill, it's not just you caring for me. It's me remembering and saying, my God, I'm so glad I changed when it was time to change. And I began to love her and my wife, because my wife and my daughter, because at this point I was totally dependent. I could not walk 3 sidewalk little small blocks without being worn out. And she kept having to help me, and I was so happy for her. But then it's humbling.
It is, and I think there's a lot of guilt involved. I want those people, and I'm going to call it false guilt, because his situation in my mind was so much worse than mine, you know. Mm-hmm. So my days became, I'm just thankful that I don't have cancer, and I'm just thankful that it's not me secretly. And what I mean by that is empathizing with you, but thankful it's not me. But what happened when I would tell myself that I'm so thankful? Then when I was sad, I couldn't be sad, because now when I'm sad, I'm saying, "What you have a right? You don't have a right to be sad. Why do you have a right to be sad when this person is going through what he's going through? You have no right to be sad. You have no right to be mad. You can't be tired, because then you're guilty. You're guilty of not being patient with someone that's fighting with their life. So you lose yourself. You absolutely lose yourself, and then you become angry at the person. This is the truth. This is your secret. It's not anything that you feel proud enough to say to another person. And I told you the last time that I would just tell them, I'll be back. I'm going to the store to get some water. And I would be gone for 5 hours, because I just wanted to think my own thoughts. I wanted to be sad for myself when I really felt sad. And I did not want to sacrifice one more thing. And that one more thing was, I'm now sacrificing my sadness.
Right.
Then the other sad part about it is when it was time for real moments, very real moments, where you would do things that just people do, not because you are sick, but because you are a man. So now I'm saying you can't add one more thing to my plate. So the irritation, it was just awful. It was just awful. But what did I do? I told myself the truth. And I said to myself, you have a right. These are your real feelings that you have.
Yeah.
And you have a right to feel them. That's human. That's human. And I used to say to myself, and then I would eventually say to Deron, you don't get to have but one life. You can't have 2 whole lives. If I give you my whole life, then who's going to live my life if I'm living your life? Right. And that's one of the, but these are the secrets that you're too ashamed to say, because it sounds as if you're uncaring and harsh and, just unloving, when you know that you're giving everything that you know to give. And everything that's important to you is on the back burner. But the important thing for me, Deron, is that, how did I survive that? No. I survived it and I overcame it. I told this story. At one point, some things were unrealistic, because I kind of wanted all that I had and all that was happening. And so I had to stop and ask, what are the things that's most important to me? That was important to me. And I realized that I had to operate in a new norm, just for a little while, not forever. Because we believed that you were fighting to live. You wasn't trying not to die. You were just simply fighting to live. We weren't using those words. And I had to sit back and say, what would my new norm be? All right, Jill, there's some things you can't do. You're not going to be able to pick up the way you used to. You're not going to be able to wash clothes every week, because if you did all the things that you used to do, you would absolutely not have time for yourself. So then I had to put the right value where it was supposed to be. I had to stop valuing. I had to lose some of that. I like my space just like this everywhere. So what I did was I just redid my bedroom. And I created a space in my bedroom just so that I could still have a piece of me. Because the truth is, and was, that there was no way that old way of life was going to be able to continue the way that it was going. And then I learned the biggest thing for me, Deron, was that I learned to listen to my breathing. Because I was tired of being anxious. I was talking fast. I don't talk this fast. Why am I talking so fast? And I don't know, I saw something. And I decided just to listen to my breathing, and so that when I woke up in the morning, and when I woke up, I would stop and I would ask myself, based on your breathing, Jill, what's going on with you? Is it labored breathing? Is it a calm breathing? And if it was labored, then I would stop and say, why am I breathing so hard early in the morning? I haven't had time to do anything. And I realized the worry, that worry was just following me to bed every night and then up in the morning, until I stopped and I breathed. And I took a good assessment of myself. And then I took some time for myself. And I had to do it through the guilt. The guilt didn't go away. The guilt went with me until I realized that it was false guilt, and I shouldn't have been that way. It wasn't what I should have been doing to myself. Knowing that in my heart, I was giving all that I knew to give, and most of all, I didn't ever want you to feel as if you were a burden to me.
And if I can, I'm so I'm hearing of some of these things for the first time, but we have talked about it, and the caregiver and the person who is being taken care of, the caretaker, it puts you in a vulnerable position. And I was just thinking about, I could tell that that's what you were going through. And so then I would withhold any request or anything and just try to, wait it out, and say, because I knew you were losing your life in terms of dealing with me. Mm-hmm. And so I think when we're talking about caregiving, what we're trying to deal with is that, to be perfectly honest, when you look at the family, the mother, the woman is the gatekeeper.
Yes. She
is the doctor of the house. She is the keeper of the records, and she is the one, you had to talk to the doctor sometimes on my behalf, and you had to help me do all these different things. And it became a very delicate thing. And I just want to say, and if anybody who's listening, I just want to say that as a man, I finally had, and you could be a female too, but as a man, I had to say, this is the part till death do us part. This is the part of the marriage. And it was time for you to keep your vow. And let
me say this. I never thought, listen to me, I never said to myself, I'm keeping a vow. That's hogwash to me. That's contractual to me. You are my friend. You are my friend. The titles, there are lots of roles, there are lots of titles, but you are not just my husband that I signed a contract, because we had no contract for the friendship. So, no, I never said to myself, let me keep a vow. That's me belonging to some system, to something that other people said you should do. I did it because I wanted to do it. I did it because that's what I would want someone to do for me. And I did it because you are my friend. When you can be some kind of husband at times, and I can be some kind of wife, but you are my friend. And so that was never, and I hope it would never be my motivation, that I think I'm doing it out of obligation and contract versus the freedom of love.
And I know that's not what you think that I'm saying.
But that's what could be heard sometimes with people who say, to death, they quote these things that they've heard people say, to death do you part, this is the marriage vows. And like I said, it becomes more about the contract and a checklist than something in the heart.
It's important because I'm going to be making a transition in a second. that people understand that this caregiving thing, when trauma comes into your home, it brings a lot of emotion. Mm-hmm. And you got to make a lot of adjustments.
Right.
And you got to be prepared, because we're going to find out when we bring Jamie in and I get to talk with Jamie, you're going to find out you're in a no man's or no woman's land, and you're by yourself. And our goal, once again, is to help you to be able to put you first. And again, she's my lover, she's my friend, she's my best friend, and we're friends first, and we were always friends first. And I would encourage anybody who has a relationship, you don't know outcomes. Mm-hmm. And we had no idea that we were going to.
Well, and this is why, if I could say this, this is why you have to get off of other people's script. Because according to the script, we were supposed to play hard until our knees hurt and our backs were bent over, according to the script. And if you hold on to that script really tightly, and someone comes in and disrupts that process, it adds even more stress, and it absolutely adds anger and frustration, which is oftentimes hidden when it comes to caring for someone. So, I think it was what I said this about my mother when I took care of my mother. I say this about a girlfriend who I sat with. I picked her up from the airport, and she died 4 days later. And I stayed with her, and I was in school at the time, and I would do my papers, run home and do my papers, and I would come back, and she would say, Jill, you don't have to come back. I'll say this, it's an honor. It's an honor for someone to trust you with their care at the most vulnerable time in their life. It is work, but it is an honor. And that's all I can say, it's an honor. And if I love this life too much, if I'm caught up in too much, Deron, of what goes on and what people say a woman should do at 50-something or what you should do at 40, and I think that I'm losing all the things that the world promised, then this would have never gone the way that it went.
Right. Well, let me say this. I'm honored, even to hear these things that you're saying, and then, this is why, and I want you all just to understand this. And we're going to transition. I want to get myself together again. But the reason we are doing the new ministry of health where God is truth, and the reason we are doing this is that this kind of stuff is not talked about. Mm-hmm. And it's censored. Mm-hmm. It's cleansed. It's made clean. And you have to know the truth. And
can I say this? Because as the gatekeeper, for every person that goes through this and they hide it, then they take it home. And then their children, are treated a certain way or not given the kind of love and support they need because the person is burnt out.
And this is why, I would have never have thought that I would share my story and that it would help other families with my medical records online. Mm-hmm. And I told the owners and best friends, guys that I was working with, and I said, hey, I don't care what happens. Had we had that tool, because as I'm hearing you say, she spent a lot of time on the phone. Mm-hmm. Trying to hunt stuff down and taking numbers down and the notebooks and all these different things that you had to do. And then you had to keep up with me, and you kept up with your mother, and then you were trying to keep all this, and then you had to learn how to. You remember you had to give your mother
TPN. I had to.
What is it called?
It was TPN.
A TPN.
Yeah,
line.
I had to do that, and she started bleeding. I think I fell out on the floor crying, and I thought that I was going to harm her some kind of way.
You did.
And I think that's the big deal of my medical records online, because all the guesswork that I had to do added to what I was most capable of doing, and that was caring for you, because I'm not a medical professional.
Right.
And so having to hear those doctors talk to you over and over again. And to watch them fumbling over what medicine you took and just trying to do anything without having the proper information. I was scared in the hospital. I was scared when I got home. I was scared when I went to sleep. I was afraid when I woke up. And the one thing that my medical records will do is to take away the biggest fear, and that is medical error. That is someone having a guessing game with you. I felt so vulnerable not being able to say, this is what he takes. These are the milligrams. I didn't follow your medical situation that way. So if you had my medical records online, the one thing that wouldn't have added to a whole bunch of other stuff would have been that the medical establishment and system would have been organized enough to give you not just quick care, fast results, but better care. Better care. And I just could not be an assistant to the doctor that I didn't know why I was trying to assist you. And so it was very scary all day long. But we're on the other side, and I just pray that and hope that anyone that's listening to Ron would want to take control of their own medical journey.
Right.
They want to take some control, because when you're in the thick of it, it's too late. It's too late to know what you really need to know.
And let me tell you something, being in pain and trying to figure out why you're in pain and you have no knowledge of the medical field and it whatsoever, it is terrifying. And I want to end it with this. Mm-hmm. This came into our life. Mm-hmm. And my sister told me before I even got connected with this new Ministry of Health and doing this, my sister said, Deron, we are the reality. Mm-hmm. We are the reality. Mm-hmm. And that's why the people that come on and talk, mm-hmm. this ain't no fluff. Mm-hmm. We're not paid mm-hmm. sponsors. Right. We are the reality. And our goal is to help people mm-hmm. to come first. Mm-hmm. And so, you'll hear information. And again, if you're hearing noise and all this, this is very organic. Mm-hmm. We've just been told. And let me tell you something. I didn't want to tell my story. And I just thought I was going to go through this privately. Mm-hmm. And then I understood it's my responsibility, because you don't want this kind of pain on anybody else.
Paying it forward, Deron, this is you paying it forward like anything else, helping somebody, because eventually you found the answers and the knowledge, and you pay it forward for anybody who might go through in the future.
There you go. And so you can take back your control of your life. Stay tuned. You'll get some more information. And we thank you for listening to us, where the new Ministry of Health, where God is truth. I'm Deron Cloud.
This is Jill.
And I can't wait for our next guest, and we're going to go right into it. I don't think we're going to be doing no more crying. I'm going to do my best. Hey, and let me tell you what I found out about tears. It's cleansing. Mm-hmm. It helps you release stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad we are here to be able to do this. Mm-hmm. Love you. Beat you to it. Talk to you soon.